Let's talk about time, specifically how time, which is just a way we measure movement, traps us in illusions. One of those illusions I call the historical illusion. The idea that the meaning of life is found in marching through events that somehow reach a grand finale in the future. The problem with chasing after that future is that it makes us miss the present. It's why so many high achievers are miserable. They're busy piling up symbols like money or status, yet they can't figure out why life feels hollow. They spend their energy on bigger futures, more wealth, more rank, more power, but it doesn't fill the emptiness because they have lost that direct sense of being alive right now. You see, time is a human creation, particularly clock time. Nature doesn't really have hours and minutes. Yes, it has rhythms, day-night seasons, but the notion of a ticking clock is an invention. Once we reduce every moment to a tiny hairline tick, we get the feeling it's always sliding by and never truly here. That's why we chase the next moment and lose the one we're in. But if you look at traditions like Zen, they've developed practices like their tea ceremony or the discipline of monastic life, where the aim is to do exactly what you're doing in the present fully. They say, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and keep your mind right there. After a while, you notice something crucial. You can't really be anywhere else but now. It's a shock when you see the now doesn't fly away like we feared. It's always with us. The contents of the moment may change, things shift, experiences happen, but the present is always here. All this stuff about no time, or not enough time, is a strange myth. As a Tibetan once said, in his land, people have very little technology, but plenty of time. Whereas in the modern world, we have loads of technology, but no time at all. Zen monks, by contrast, show us you can be calm and unhurried, and yet get more done, because they're completely present. They don't waste energy rushing or worrying. They're like cats crossing a road, moving swiftly, gracefully, never in a panic. Try looking at sleep similarly. In our society, some folks treat sleep like it's a waste of time. If only we had a pill to stay awake forever. But deep, dreamless sleep is precious. If you learn to surrender consciously into a deep rest, temple sleep, if you like, it's incredibly restorative. For a moment, time vanishes. There's a marvelous refreshment in letting yourself drop out of all roles, all responsibilities, sinking into that darkness without worry. You come back in the morning with a sense of newness. Dying can be seen the same way. If at the moment of death you surrender and say, I'm done with responsibilities and clock watching, some people find tremendous joy, as if life's meaning suddenly becomes crystal clear. That's why in many spiritual traditions, initiation involves a ritual death. You symbolically die and are reborn. It's a way to experience firsthand how liberation feels when you drop your role and become nobody. Suddenly you free up enormous energy that was tied up in defending the ego. The question then is, what do you do with that energy? Because if you have this big awakening and you don't know how to use it wisely, you can create trouble. There's the old story of the sorcerer's apprentice. He summoned magic brooms to fetch water, but then couldn't stop them. We can get into that situation when we gather all this spiritual power, but lack the wisdom to handle it. That's why spiritual disciplines, including Zen or yoga, train you carefully so you can let go responsibly. And let's be clear, letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It's not about being sluggish. The real you, free of tension, has a lot of energy. Humans aren't naturally lazy. If they seem that way, they're usually burnt out or out of alignment. When you release the ego's grip, your deeper vitality flows. But society doesn't always trust that. It wants you to keep producing on schedule, pushing for more and more progress, measuring everything in terms of success and the future. Look how we clutter our lives with records and files. That's another example of letting the clock and the historical mindset take over. Everyone's collecting mountains of data, but nobody's finding time to enjoy anything. Or in academia, you find people so anxious about tiny errors and footnotes that they lose the sheer love of learning. The word school once meant a place of leisure, coming from the Greek skole, but now it's grind, measure, produce, defend. That approach might get you credentials, but it often destroys the wonder that started learning in the first place. So how do we escape that treadmill of time and history? By creating a diversion. Stop trying to fix the future directly. Realize that chasing a better tomorrow can't ever succeed if you don't learn how to be present. Instead, do something in the present that's truly alive, truly absorbing, something so compelling that it pulls you out of the rat race mindset. When people see something genuinely joyful, they can't help turning away from the big tense drama of progress and wanting to join the party. Imagine a dingy casino table where folks are gambling their lives away, all sweaty and anxious. Suddenly, across the room, a new game starts, full of laughter and good energy. Bit by bit, everyone drifts over, drawn by the fun. Finally, the tense gamblers realize there's no one left to watch them, no audience. They look around and say, "Where'd everybody go?" That's how you break the cycle. Not by more fighting, but by turning people's attention to a richer possibility now. And that's the real meaning of dropping out of history. You stop being part of that push toward an always imagined future. You free yourself to live. Sure, we do have practical rhythms. We have day and night. We have tasks that need doing. But the point is to be fully present in the actual process, not anxiously chasing the next tick of the clock. It's right now or never. That's where the power is. Let's start by picking up on the fundamental theme from that talk. The idea of deciding whether life is ultimately a comedy or a tragedy. That might sound overly simplistic. Who'd want to label the entire universe as one or the other? But at root, there's a basic tension we face. Are we each a tiny, isolated speck, dropped into a confusing world for reasons unknown and fated to vanish? Or are we, in some deeper sense, the very same creative energy that swirls stars, shapes mountains, and sings in the wind? We often get stuck in the second alternative, seeing ourselves as separate, like we arrived here from nowhere. We imagine we're a stranger in a strange land, forever hustling to secure what we can. Yet if that's all we ever believe, life can feel grim. No matter how smart or powerful you get, there's a nagging suspicion you're just a chess piece on the board, not the chessboard itself. By contrast, suppose you glimpse that everything, your mind, your body, your neighbors, the daisies by the road, the clouds in the sky, forms one continuous process, each part reliant on all the others. Then, instead of being a lonely fragment, you're a pulse of the total. You see how the universe expresses itself through each wave, each person, each bird, and you're it. That shift from a separate me to a dancing me is enormous. It doesn't mean you literally vanish or that your personal perspective becomes irrelevant, but you stop feeling so cut off from the grand motion of existence. Separateness versus wholeness. In a day-to-day sense, it looks like we're all sealed into these skin-bound forms, each with a distinct mind, that picture is only half true. Sure, I can't read your thoughts word for word, but if you consider what goes on inside your head, language, imagery, concepts, none of it is truly private. Why? Because the words you speak are the same words you got from society. The ideas shaping your beliefs were gleaned from your parents, your friends, your culture. Even your body, which you think of as just yours, came from the DNA of countless ancestors, plus the nourishment of earth, the sunlight, the water. It's all a flow of influences. If we dig deeply, we find that myself, this living organism, its swirling thoughts and passions, can't be neatly severed from the environment that upholds it. The air, the warmth, the entire web of relationships. From this perspective, the boundary between me and not me is fuzzy. If you try to isolate the exact point at which you end, and the rest of the world begins, you can't. Skin looks like the boundary, but the skin itself is in constant dialogue with the air. And so, the separate, struggling ego might be a convenient mental tool, but it's not the full reality. Comedy or tragedy. Now if you embrace that connectedness, does life become a breezy comedy? Some folks worry it might be too breezy, as if seeing yourself as part of the whole means slacking off or losing all sense of direction. They'll say, won't people become irresponsible if they think it's all one dance? But ironically, clinging to an extreme notion of being separate can lead to more anxieties, more fear of messing up, more obsession with controlling or blaming the world. You fret over everything that might threaten your boundaries. You start planning every detail, building walls, doubling your security. Tragedy arises from that hyper-isolation, as though you're fighting a cosmic tide with a teacup. Comedy, in the sense that talk implies, isn't trivial or dismissive. It's that we can afford to laugh, to see that even heartbreak, frustration, ups and downs are part of a cosmic story far beyond any single vantage point. If you're part of it all, you can relax a bit, enjoy the ride, and share the joke. That's a deeper comedy than silly gags. It means a playful heart in the face of existence. Illusions about matter. We also get stuck on the illusion that matter is solid and absolutely real in some final sense. Physics, though, keeps revealing that everything is made of fluctuations, particles vibrating at unbelievable speeds. The floor under your feet isn't static lumps, but a dance of forces that happen to lock out your foot so you don't fall through. It's dazzlingly stable from our vantage point, but it's not the solid block it appears to be. Does that mean matter isn't real? Not exactly. It's real enough for us to stand on, very handy if you don't want to keep floating in space. But it's an illusion if you think it's some unchanging, independent substance that's out there apart from the mind. In truth, it's more like a cosmic dance, like the pattern you see on a television screen or ripples in water. And guess what? We are part of that dance, not mere onlookers. We ourselves are built of those same swirling energies. Embracing the play. Why does seeing matter as dynamic and fluid help your happiness? Because the opposite viewpoint, treating the world as fixed and you as a small occupant, breeds anxious attachment. You want to own it, save it, fix it, or you condemn it, thinking it's all worthless lumps, so you aim to wring out as much pleasure as possible before the lumps crumble. Both approaches can lead to a grim tension or cynicism. But if you see matter as playful and yourself as part of the play, you no longer feel the same desperate need to trap it. Instead, you can enjoy it. Enjoy your home, your relationships, your sense experiences, realizing their ephemeral but wonderful illusions, like a child enjoying soap bubbles or a painter enjoying colors without needing them to last forever. Illusions aren't necessarily worthless. A rainbow is an illusion, but what a splendid one. A great novel is pure imagination, yet it can make us cry or laugh wholeheartedly. Likewise, the world of sights and sounds, this daily drama, can be cherished once you see it's a passing show. Or as Zen folks say, a dream within a dream. That doesn't trivialize it, it enriches it. You can delight in it thoroughly because you're not clinging to it with terror. Personal identity and the cosmos. Now the hardest puzzle for many is the sense of identity. If I let go of seeing myself as a separate person, do I become a nobody? Do I vanish emotionally? Actually, you become more yourself. Instead of being a tiny fretting entity, you start to sense a cosmic perspective. You see that your personal angles and quirks are like a wave's shape on the ocean. The wave still has its distinct style. It can be tall, graceful, crashing, but it's also unequivocally part of the ocean's living movement. Knowing that you're the ocean in wave form can enliven your wave life. And so, from that vantage, you can indeed become more vibrant, more creative, more authentic. You can still love your coffee, your music, your dog, your jokes. You just know that beneath that tapestry is the grand weave that never ceases. In that sense, your personality isn't destroyed, it's clarified. A word on responsibility. Some folks assume that if you adopt this cosmic viewpoint, you'll drop all sense of personal responsibility. But consider, genuine responsibility, genuine compassion arises most naturally when you feel intimately connected. If you see others as truly other, you might help them out of duty or pity or fear or pride. But if you sense a deeper link, that they are in a real sense part of you, helping them becomes as natural as scratching an itch on your own hand. You don't need to shame yourself into it or wave a moral code in your face. Thus, ironically, dropping the rigid sense of I alone am real can foster a more heartfelt moral sense. You realize that harming others is harming yourself. Trashing the environment is sabotaging your own home. This leads not to anarchy, but to a profound sense of belonging and care. Conclusion. Dancing in the mystery. We come around then to the question, what stops our happiness? Typically, it's the illusions we cling to with a death grip. Illusions of isolation, illusions of ultimate matter, illusions of pure rigidity. We think, this must be under my control, or I must shield myself from the universe, or if I don't hold tight, all is lost. All those illusions weigh us down. Letting them go doesn't mean believing in nothing. It means believing in the dance. It means trusting that you, the cosmos, matter, mind, these all flow and define each other. Nobody's truly alone. The dance is always moving, and you can discover your steps in it if you relax and pay attention. The comedic spirit arises when you notice that while everything is profoundly interconnected, it's also a grand performance. Comedic here doesn't mean shallow. It means you can laugh, genuinely, at the wonder of it all. The seriousness of tragedy loosens. You see the playful element hidden in day-to-day life. The swirl of electrons, the tilt of a flower's stem, the glint in your friend's eye. It's a cosmic swirl that's simultaneously ephemeral yet so intimate. Hence, real happiness isn't about ignoring life's messiness or clinging to an unchanging substance. It's about recognizing the illusions for what they are. Necessary illusions, enchanting illusions, illusions that let the show go on. Once you do that, you can stand with both feet firmly on shifting ground, Smile up at the sky and say, "Yes, I see. Let's dance."